in a proposition that we know is unlikely to pass, that the town that already pays the highest tax rate per assessed value would choose to increase its tax rate so that towns with higher values and higher incomes could lower their own tax rate. We could talk about fairness, we could talk about altruism, but all we've been talking about is these tax rates instead of how can we further the education in this district? How can we, is this a good budget? And yes, it is. How do we get this budget passed? We can see how divisive this issue is, even at this level. Table it, get data, talk about it, don't rush it in April. There's plenty of other months in the year, there's plenty of other years. I can't imagine that anyone's property taxes are going to disappear next year or the year after. I'm sure we'll still be discussing this, we'll still care about this. It doesn't have to be done in a month on a rush notice. Table the measure. Thank you.
Is it appropriate to speak to item 11 on your agenda? So this, I gotta get up at 5:30. I would really like to express my dismay.
Item 11.
The proposal that if you have a budget proposed in the future that comes in under the 2% cap, you would just vitiate the voters' rights by not having that school board election or the budget portion of the school board election. Is that even legal? Are you required under state law to submit the budget to voter approval every year regardless? So why would you propose this when it's clearly against state law, but you won't propose something else just because one town doesn't like it?
New Jersey School Boards Association has a representative from every school district in the state of California.
Speak up, please.
This New Jersey School Board's position, this is their current position. One of their positions that they're taking, and we are just reinforcing that position after this article.
Don't you have a fiduciary obligation to us, the voters and taxpayers?
Do you vote on your
to ask us?
I don't want to get in an argument with you here, but semantically, do you vote on your town budget?
Yes,
You vote,
I do.
no, you don't.
I go in and have a say. I'm sorry, but
Well,
our
you-
town has recently changed.
You only have a say in who you elect. You don't have a say in your town budget. That is false. You don't have a say in your county budget. That is false. You don't have a say in your state budget. That is false.
But
The only budget that you have a say in is a school board budget. And it's the only way that people can vent their anger is against school board budgets. I would love to vote every budget. The town budget, the county budget, the state budget, and quite frankly, the federal budget. We don't really have that right either.
In
And I'll leave it at that.
each instance that you just mentioned, there is a way. In our town, they do listen in the budget meetings and they ask for.
We have budget meetings that are open to the public.
I'm
How
sorry,
many
is
did
this
you
my
have?
5 minutes?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
As far as the state and federal budgets, I have always been one of those annoying people that actually writes the comments. I don't say that they listen to everything I say, but at least I have a method by which I can say something. The state has determined that school boards get that to the voters in the school district by submitting it to a vote. And for this board to propose something that's clearly against state law, I think violates your obligations as board members. And clearly, you're working in abrogation of the rights of the people who elect their constituent members. And I cannot disagree with that more.
We're asking for a change. We're asking the state to consider a change in the state law. We are not in any means asking or discussing to violate the law. We continue to follow state law. We putting our budget up for a vote like we have every year unless the law changes. One reason and they, other districts around the state, they ask for changes to the law.
Okay, so is it that lobbying for a change that the voters don't agree with? So is it that kind of working counter purposes to the voters who don't want that? I think you got an inherent conflict.
I agree.
I want it.
I don't know that all, you have taken a survey of everybody in this room, but I don't know that everybody agrees. Again, there's no tax that everybody will agree.
But we're not talking about fairness in tax, we're talking about eliminating our right to have to say on the only one being given the right to vote.
Kevin Corbett from Mendham. I will not take 5 minutes in courtesy of the hour. We certainly appreciate anybody taking the time in the public world to spend your time here. I would like to correct one thing that there's a question a couple of people comments have made, and I would like to echo the sentiments of the gentleman from Chester, that, mainly that I do not see it being precipitous, the issue of getting back to the issue of putting on the referendum. I think the issue's been out there a long time. I think the recession has been several years out there. It found particularly hard that maybe before we're not as concerned, because it was more marginal than it is now. Mendham Township was on it, back in January. I don't think, some people, understand politics, try to make it look like a fringe group or something. I think it's much more broader-based. I think there's a lot of sentiment, and a lot of it's very components, well thought, and it's been a little bit of time and effort. And our 4 towns, 4 municipalities, their mayors and the council, have asked for this referendum. I think to the other gentleman's viewpoint that you never know how elections go. I don't think that it's hard. Maybe, the advocates, are disappointed they don't get it. But certainly when you have, 4 mayors and the councils asking for it, and a significant number of citizens, to disregard that to me would be rather shocking.
Questions or comments in the back?
Ann Clark, Chester Township. I've run some of the calculations, and Washington Township will be voting to raise their high school district taxes 40%. And despite what CBS says, I think it's improbable that they would vote to do that. So I cannot figure out what this is about, but obviously the CBS people must know what it's about. And I think it's really unfortunate that they can't tell us what this is about. I'm tired of spending my time writing to the Observer Tribune. I'm tired of spending my time talking to this group because CBS wants us on the ballot and they know it's going to be. So what is the purpose of this referendum? If CBS cannot tell us what the purpose of this is, they're not being transparent to the voters. They're not being honest with us about what this is about. So I have a real problem with that. I have a problem with rhetoric about subsidizing who. You need about $3 million of assessed value in Chester Township to pay for one high school student. My home is not $3 million. I have a child in high school, so somebody's subsidizing me. I wonder how many people in this room are paying for their high school students or their elementary school students. When you talk about fairness, the proposal would have somebody in Washington Township for the same assessed value of a house paying 3 times as much as somebody in Chester Borough. You know what? You can debate fairness, but what is this about? I wish somebody from CBS would tell us if this is due to be voted down in Washington Township, what are we wasting our time tonight and for the next few weeks about? What is this about? And until somebody from CBS will be honest and tell us what their scheme is, whether it's to litigate, to go to the legislature, please be honest. We're your neighbors. So that's what I have to say. The board, you can put the referendum on the ballot. You can put it on with very little information for people to make a good decision. And I still think it'll be voted down in Washington Township. So what are we doing?
Dennis Egan, Mendham Township. You could take a half an hour with everything that's been thrown around here tonight, and I won't do that, but a couple thoughts. I guess I certainly support the comments about people being allowed to voice their opinions. And what amazes me the most, being a product of the 60s, is what's going on in the world today, both internationally and in our own local community, which is you have the most societies where people are given the least freedom rising up and asking for it. And in our country, you have the people at the top trying to restrict the freedoms of people. So I find that really dichotomous. And I think, quite honestly, whether this vote would accomplish anything based on the structure of it, to me, quite honestly, is not the question. The question I would think of the board is, what do people really think in the 5 towns where I have responsibility to educate the children? What do they actually think? Are they satisfied with the way the funding of these schools take place? And in terms of a couple quick comments, a couple more comments. The high schools we're talking about, the regional structure we're talking about, is a top-tier elite type school. Wouldn't everyone agree? I think that's why we all live here, and that's why we send our kids to school there. When you're talking about a top-tier elite type school, then it would seem to me that as far as what is right and justified with what people have to pay for that school should be equal. If you're talking about a bare-bones school structure where you have a community where people can't even afford to put bread on the table, then I think you're talking about a different situation as to maybe the haves should have to pay some what the have-nots cannot. But when you're in a situation where you have people that are taking advantage of, quite honestly, other people who are paying more to educate their kids, when if it's important to them to educate their kids at that type of school, then they should be willing to pay for it. So in terms of democracy, I think it's important, and I'm not a member of CBS, by the way. I'm just a interested and concerned taxpayer who has put 2 children through the West Morris-Mendon High School system. Very satisfied with the education, very satisfied with everything I've seen this board do in terms of what you do for our kids. But costs are costs, and I think we've reached a point in our history where people no